My Bubby, Mildred Eidelman, was born in 1933 in the Bronx, New York. 12 years earlier, in 1920, her father immigrated to the United States from Poland to escape having to join the army.
My parents were born in Poland. They had one child, a male named Samuel. He was 20 years older than I am. My, my dad left Poland to escape through Russia because he was supposed to go into the army, and he didn't want to do that. My dad stayed a short time in Chicago, came back to New York. Eventually, my mother and brother came out of Poland. I think it was just before World War One. They lived during the time of Prohibition. My mother told me that she used to put liquor bottles in my carriage and sell it illegally to make some money in the Bronx. I couldn't believe it. My mother did not speak English. She never became a citizen. She never wanted to be in America.
Growing up, Judaism was very important to my Bubby and her family.
She brought over from Europe silver candlesticks, which I still have. She would go to shul every Shabbos, and on Yom Kippur, I know she wore white all the time. In Staten Island, we had the synagogue, a Agudas Achim. Staten Island had a fair amount of Jewish people who went to the same shul that we went to. I was Shomer Shabbat on Shabbat after services. We would walk the hills of Staten Island. Every Saturday night after Shabbos, we would have beer, herring. It was really fun to have Shabbos like that. My dad would take me to buy a dress for Yontif. Every Yontif, I got a new dress, and I went to the Lower East Side, and I would get a new dress for Yontif. I still remember that.
Although it happened while they were already in America, the Holocaust impacted my Bubby's family.
The Holocaust happened in the late 30s, and all I remember was that my mother's siblings, we tried to locate them afterwards. We went to every organization that was looking for relatives, and we could find no evidence of her siblings, nor any relatives of my dad. It was a very sad situation for my mother. I remember her screaming when we couldn't find anyone who was alive. My dad had a butter and egg root. The eggs came from New Jersey. I, at age 13, would go with my dad to New Jersey to pick up the eggs. And then I decided I wanted to learn how to drive at age 13. My dad actually taught me how to drive the truck. Uh, Finally, we left where we first lived in Staten Island. We lived next to someone who was Catholic, and she would call me a Christ killer, which I really didn't understand at that time.
Growing up, my Bubby's education was very important to her.
I went to PS 17, Public School 17 in Staten Island. I went to Curtis High School, where there were a lot of Jewish people that I became friendly with. I went to a BBYO, which I think was called something else then, at the Jewish Community Center. I played basketball. I played badminton. I took a bus, a ferry boat, and a subway to college, NYU, which we used to call NYJU.
After college, my Bubby pursued her career as a doctor.
I always wanted to be a doctor because my dad had bladder cancer. I went to apply to medical school. I got into Washington U, but because my parents were elderly, I didn't want to be so far away. So I did apply to women's medical school in Philadelphia, and I would come home every Sunday to be with them. When I was at medical school, I took my roommate to my house for Passover. She was Catholic. I remember this so vividly. My dad and my brother would sing song together the whole liturgy of Pesach. In my senior year, my classmate introduced me to my husband-to-be, Marty Eidelman. We hit it off from the beginning.
My Bubby had 4 children. My Uncle Mark was born in 1958, my Uncle Gary was born in 1960, my Aunt Alyssa was born in 1962, and my mom was born in 1969. My Bubby's husband passed away in 1971 from leukemia. Throughout her adult life, and now with her 10 grandchildren, Judaism has remained an important part of my Bubby's life.
I kept Shabbat. I kept kosher. I felt very comfortable about Judaism. The holidays were just so much fun. I remember having 42 people for Pesach. My children always invited their friends for Pesach. It was so much fun. We would sing the melodies. It was one of my favorite holidays.
After learning about my Bubby's Jewish roots, I asked her why it was so important to her to maintain her Judaism.
It's my heritage. It's the Judaism that I embraced gave me an insight into what it was like during Abraham's time, during Moses' time, and I felt I should continue bringing this into my children's lives.